Now, before we jump into, once again, another incredible episode of The Great Jahy, there's something I've been meaning to mention in these reviews for some time, but I always forget, so I want to make sure I do it right at the beginning. I think the easiest point in order to get the music across, because obviously I'm not going to play in the video to avoid copyright trouble, but when we focused on Salwa as the dog, that background piece, which has been relevant pretty much since the show started off, is it not very similar to the We, Me theme music? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a pretty classic, iconic piece. Go to YouTube, search We, Me theme. That song seems so similar to that theme that is pretty it's like the slice of life adventure theme of Jahy, I find, and that's not a diss to it. I love that track from the Wii. So I'm just saying, that's a compliment for me, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be the only one who sees similarities between those two pieces, and it's something that always brings a grin to my face whenever they play it. Now, in terms of the content, of course, the new content that is, incredible. The idea of reintroducing the law, I think, is amazing. The reintroducing of Salwa and her attempts to destroy the great Jahy, but pretty much is always foiled by a dog, but this time she herself becomes the dog. And just the numerous pieces of content that really shows Jahy as a great person and someone truly starting to think of others before themselves, from the sacrificing of thinking it's a booby trap when really it was just a crystal on the side of the road, to sacrificing herself and getting arrested yet again, and the landlady probably having to give Jahy a scolding. I love the build-up throughout these episodes, and how, even though there's familiar elements like the law or the dog or this or that, they continue to find ways to rejuvenate them and keep them completely fresh and exciting. First things first, the idea of it's too good to be true, I thought was handled flawlessly. We knew it wasn't a trap. We knew the magical girl didn't lay out a booby trap that would explode her or fall down a manhole. But I love seeing how we finally have something that she's been searching for so long, because her stone, her crystal, was robbed, right? So to see something that was, I don't know, probably a pretty big-ass apple size, just sitting there, while yes, I was under the impression she might end up falling down that sewer, not because of a trap, but maybe because she would just plan a little too insane, and then that would move the sewer grate or something. But to see how far her imagination stretched and how we reintroduce another occurring element of this show, her starting to care for petty humans. How dare humans even want to talk to the great Jahy? That was her mindset starting off this show. Now we're to the point of her sacrificing herself, use that in quotations. But to her, that was a moment of legit trying to save her. And the fact that, I thought that scene was going to be her picking it up and her feeling like an idiot. Instead, we had her essentially sacrifice herself. Not only showing development that she cares for her boss and that she's caring for humans more and more, but you get that comedic relief all at the same time while actually rewarding her. I've been an avid supporter of almost like a karma theory about how the show operates. When Jahy does good things happen to Jahy. When she acts inappropriately or poorly, bad things happen. We look at Druji, every time she tries to manipulate Druji, she gets stuck with the bill or bad things happen. But in the case of the beginning of this episode, she sacrificed, or at least what she thought was happening, was sacrificing herself for her boss, and in return, she was rewarded with a crystal. That's what I love about it, is that they're really taking their time at progressing her as being a better person, so when she's rewarded, you think, God damn it, she deserved that. But when she lies or when she schemes, you're like, well, her punishment is definitely warranted in this instance. And I think that's what's so great about the police scene as an example, because you get to see Jahy drop kick who I thought was stranger danger. I actually didn't think they were going to bait and switch us. I thought either A, they were relatives, or Jahy deserved to drop kick those fools. So the fact that it was just, she fell and she was, after basically, wanting to give her a flower, wanting to go down the slide, basically again, that childhood innocence, great content giving her that childhood she never had and never knew she wanted, to save her from what seemed like horrible people, to then getting the cops called and her once again sacrificing herself for yet again another human, this time because she really values, because she thinks the police are these evil people who are completely out to foil her monocrystal plan. And even though she did get arrested, I also don't think it was necessarily a punishment or a victory. It was a bit of both, right? Because one, Jahy can't go kicking random people until she knows the full details. But two, it's not like I think the boss is going to be or even the landlady are going to be as miserable once she explains the situation, right? You don't need to see it, but you can imagine the situation when the landlady disciplined her, yelled at her, and then she said, I thought I was saving my friend from these evil people. she'd be like, okay, but you can't go doing that randomly. You gotta at least verify what's going on. And then she'd probably argue about how you need the element of surprise to take down your enemy. I love the idea of good versus bad and how it's rewarded or punished, and it just creates such an entertaining dynamic. The biggest shocker and surprise of this episode was definitely Woof Woof DX. The idea that Salwa created a formula that apparently has been worked on for probably ever since we got introduced to this character. And because this character can be as dense as, honestly, think of the densest character you've ever seen in anime. I think, honestly, Salwa sometimes can give it a run for their money. Thought it was tea, drinks it. And I love the idea, and it's something that's so simple, it's so basic that it shouldn't be as charming as it is. But all these characters that Salwa has a very strong impression of. The dog that became Clifford the Big Red Dog, horrible evil creature, is just trying to attack you. The landlady shakes you down like a mafia boss and steals your money. Jahy, evil creature. All three of those were very much kind of like a changing of opinion. Now, it's not going to change Salwa's character completely, but similar to Jahy, starting to see things a bit differently, and the mist is starting to separate. The idea of, well, Jahy herself playing and fetch, the belly rubs, like all that type of stuff is just so cute. It's so sweet, it's so adorable, and probably is one of the first times, if not the first time, a situation between those two, while Jahy didn't know it was Salwa. At the end of the day, Salwa came to appreciate, even if it was momentarily, and even if they'll go back to their original mindset, appreciate someone that they've been competing against this entire anime. The landlady got shook down for money, not realizing why the rent money was taken in the first place, but the idea of passing the umbrella and moving on. I can't take you home, the apartments don't allow dogs, but I can at the very least do this. Or I think, honestly, one of the most interesting aspects was, like, the idea that she recognized the dog and how the dog was very sad and kind of like left because it wanted to be friends, but seeing things kind of at a ground level because she's been kind of like looking down and peering down at people, just getting a sense of humanity through that. It's great from Jahy starting to care for humans, both, I mean, in this episode in particular, of course, it was Kokoro as well as her boss, and just, sacrificing, giving gifts, and wanting to spend time, to Salwa getting a taste of humanity's own medicine and what can happen when you don't try to be the second in command of the Dark Realm. Of course, the thing I'm most interested in seeing is when the Demon Lord herself is going to pop up. We talked about it in last week's review. Clearly, the opening is indicating that will be an aspect of this core. We have 8 episodes left of the anime before we hopefully get to wait for a season 2 someday. But at the very least, all the elements, yet they might be the same as we've experienced in past episodes, it still is that progression. It's like going back to a level in a game where you couldn't get past a certain tunnel, like in Metroid, until you had a certain weapon, but now that we get to see even more about the series, and the character development and comedy remains to be top tier with still. Loving the new opening and ending, absolute bangers, but I'd love to know everyone's thoughts. We had a lot of content, probably going to be a lot of different favorite moments, but let me know yours down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.